Alright, welcome guys to another video by me, Boylon. Here we are going to be talking about the top 5 plus 1 characters that need a rework, but this is specifically focusing on OG, or in this case, original characters that were released at the start of Marvel Strike Force, but really haven't been touched all that much since. And there's a few handfuls that probably people are like, yeah, they definitely need a rework, but I do want to bring these up anyways, so let's get things started here. And so before we get started here, yeah, I have a lot of hard characters. I need to fix this up. But in no particular order, we're going to start with Kingpin. So Kingpin is one character who was at a time, you know, very meta in the early parts of the game of Marvel Strike Force. If some of you guys were around very early on, back in mid 2018, Kingpin was a very meta character, but he was a support meta character. Despite being a protector, he doesn't really do that much when it comes to protecting. And the reason behind why he was so good at the time was his ultimate boss's orders. Now, this is not very good now, but it does apply defense up to all allies for 2 turns and offense up to 5 allies. In this case, it's in the arena context is basically everyone. The rest of it's not all that important, but the reason why this was so good was because you would normally pair him up with characters like Quake, Crossbones, and Yondu, and it was timed perfectly so that this would go off before Yondu and Crossbones ultimate, which at the time did a huge amount of damage, and it would just, you know, with the offense up, and just obliterated them. Back in the day, the arena meta was basically trying to kill Crossbones before he blew up. That was exactly the arena meta, and you would use characters like Black Widow to try and stun Crossbones rather, and, you know, speed up and all these things just to get ahead of them before he blew up. And that literally was the arena meta for, I think, at least 6 to 9 months, where it was all about stopping Crossbones from killing everyone, in this case because of Kingpin's buffs. The rest of his kit really isn't all that stellar. He does summon these bodyguards which have taunt, but their damage are trash, and I'm pretty sure they die really quickly as well. And I don't think the red stars really help them all that much like it does some other characters with red stars that are summoners. And their damage is poor, it's not amazing, and they can taunt for, you know, no change. So it doesn't even matter what the skills levels are. Like most of the summoners, when you raise their get T4s and stuff, you know, they get different stuff here, but there's no change in any of the levels here, so that's really disappointing. The basic does go up a little bit, but in order to get level 7 basic, you would have to get a level 7 basic into Kingpin's basic, and again, not very good. Damage and chance to an assist. This needs a complete overhaul. But before we talk about that, really, you know, he was designed to be, you know, used with villain characters, and I thought he actually had some text about mercenaries, but I guess that's not the case. But either way here, he has like increased chance for what the, you know, team attack, or really what it is in an assist at this point, and hasn't really changed all that much. So it's super disappointing, but I do hope that Kingpin, not just because I have a 5 red star for him, but I do hope that they do something with him. Now, what could they do with him? They obviously have to give him some sort of team tag, because he doesn't have any. He's just some city villain character that doesn't have any tags at all. They didn't even give him a Spider-Verse tag back when they had the chance to do that. And I think, I don't know, maybe that might have been too powerful at the time, not now, of course, but back then when they introduced the Spider-Verse tag, maybe that might have been too good. I don't know. But there is a potential here for coming out with like a Kingpin's, I don't know what they call it, Kingpin's Mercenaries. You know, I'm thinking back to the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, where he had characters like Hammerhead, and, you know, actually I don't remember all of them, but, you know, he was really important in that cartoon, and he had like his own kind of collection of sort of mercenary bodyguard type characters that were sort of doing stuff for him. And, you know, maybe you could think of something better. I'm not apparently thinking all that well when it comes to like other Kingpin characters or related to Kingpin, but they really need to do something. Come on, give us an update for Kingpin. So that was the first character that I want to talk about. The second one is going to be Yondu. Again, I mentioned the Yondu meta with Kingpin with the arena meta. They haven't really touched him. So he's a villain cosmic. He's a Ravager, right? So the Ravagers were never really good. The Ravagers were required to unlock Star-Lord back in the day when there wasn't a lot of Guardians of the Galaxy available. A lot of people did farm Yondu in order to unlock Star-Lord, but now that's not required. You definitely don't need to do that, and none of the Ravager characters are really that required either to do this, to get Star-Lord unlocked, now that you have other Guardians available in the stores. Now, Yondu is classed as a support character, which is strange because he doesn't really do much stuff related to support. So he does clear positive status effects, but a lot of that could be something that a controller could do. A lot of controller characters do have clearing of positive effects, hence the controlling aspect. And then he is also a summoner like Kingpin. And his summons are a little bit better than Kingpin's because he does have the option of a Ravager Boomer and a Ravager Stitcher. So one's a healer, one does a little bit of damage. But the Ravager minions in themselves are also not very good, and we all know that Ravager Stitcher is one of the worst characters in the game. So this does need some work as well. It does give offense up if we look at the boarding party ability to all Ravager allies. So there is some, some room where this could be good. If they buff the Ravagers with Yondu and then fix this up a little bit to sort of maybe give offense up for 2 turns, maybe some defense, if he's going to be a support character, give him some actual, really good support here. Because they're not going to change the class that they have him as support. He's been, I don't see that changing. His Yanka arrow actually used to be really, really, really powerful, part of the arena meta when the game first came out, alongside crossbones, like I mentioned when I talked about Kingpin here. So this was AoE, undodgeable piercing damage at the time, very, very, very strong here, and it changed to all enemies who aren't in stealth. Now, I think an improvement for this probably needs to include stealth characters, needs a huge rework here because this just is not enough. These numbers are very low, and unfortunately, that's just not going to cut it in the current game. So they're going to need to not only rework his kit, they're going to need to rework the Ravager team. A lot of people are talking about Taserface. I don't know, if anyone in the chat right now could let me, I don't know what we could really do with the Ravager tag. I don't really know if there are any other characters necessarily to bring in for this team. However, a lot of people kind of speculated things like maybe a Star-Lord rework to go alongside Yondu. There's also Rocket and Groot are kind of on the side, not really doing anything either. Now that we've seen Infinity Watch being reworked for Gamora, there's kind of the Guardians is kind of being slowly kind of reshaped. There's some rumors that there are some other Guardian reworks down the line as well. I'm not sure if this is related to Yondu at all, or if Yondu is going to fit in there at all. And then we have Centauri Hunter, which is his passive, which I do have to, oh my god, I have this at tier 5. I did upgrade this with T4s. On turn, choose 2 random effects. If they have a positive effects, copy the positive effect itself. The problem with this was that it was choose 2 random enemies. Back when this first came out with T4s, it was assumed that it would pick characters with positive effects guaranteed, not that it was going to choose random enemies. We did have a chance to refund these T4s after this, but I, for some reason, didn't end up doing that. So I still have the T4s. So it is what it is. If it does end up being good, I imagine that he's still going to be the leader of the Ravagers if they're reworking that team. So he's going to have on par with what other characters have for their passives, like plus 30% health, plus 30% damage, that kind of stuff. So hopefully that T4 that I have right now might be worth it down the line, but it currently isn't. Yondu, my pal, please get a rework sometime soon. It doesn't have to be with the wider Ravager team. They could just do something else with them. I don't really care. But I do have a 5 red. I always feel bad when I have these characters at 5 red or higher just sitting around and collecting dust. So please give some love to my pal Yondu. Moving on from Yondu, we need to talk about Iron Man. Poor Iron Man, because not only did he get his own team, Power Armor, he also had another team, Wave 1 Avengers. I forget which one came first. It doesn't really matter all that much here. But the point is that Iron Man is just, what can I say? He even gets booted off his own team. So we know that when you run Iron Man alongside the Power Armor team, he's normally the one left out. So if you're going for something like Powertron, Power Armor, Ultron, Iron Man is the one that you kick out of the team, because I don't think he's ever been reworked. I think that his kit has actually had extra text added in here to power armor in Wave 1 Avengers. But I do not believe that the actual kit itself was changed in any of the reworks. Please let me know in the comments down below if you're watching this on YouTube later on. I do not think that this was actually adjusted when he got the team tag edition. I think this was all the same from when it was originally. And so that being said, none of the rest of his kit was ever changed. The stats are all the same. The numbers are still the same. As far as I'm aware, none of this was never adjusted. And, you know, the damage numbers are not very good. This isn't even piercing. Level 6, 190 or 250 with Captain America, this is very low in my opinion. I'm pretty sure as far as AoEs go, like Rocket's AoE is way stronger, and I get it, this is special. Unibeam, level 6, 540, I think it's not bad, but again, it could be a lot better given that he's a semi-legendary, and that's it. It's just damage. So if we were to take someone like Black Bolt, yeah, I know he's a legendary, but the damage numbers just don't compute. You know, I think that Iron Man definitely needs a bump here in the damage department, and he needs something more than just damage. It needs to do more. I don't know what exactly. You know, let me know if you guys have any suggestions for Iron Man, but it's just not enough in this day and age, and we know it because he's kind of trash. The fact that I even am at 50k, I think that's because I tried to get him working. He's only at tier 10, but I tried to get him working for the Power Armor team when it did come out. And so he has all these tags, and yet he's just, nobody's really using him. You know, and maybe, you know, throw him back onto the Wave 1 Avengers. That's fine too. You know, because a lot of people are now taking Black Widow for Wave 1, I'm sorry, for Skilletary. And so that kind of leaves Thor, Cap, Hulk. Let's put Iron Man back on there, but let's give him a rework that makes it a little bit better. But I just don't see if that's going to happen unless Iron Man gets a new team, which really is unlikely. I just don't know how they would... I don't know if they would just rework a single character for no reason. But Iron Man really needs it. He needs a bump. He's not worth gearing. If you have a 6 or 7 red star Iron Man, I still wouldn't gear it, in my opinion. Moving on to number 4. It's number 4, right? Is that what we're on? OG Spider-Man. So this is a character that a lot of people have been requesting. Heck, I'm pretty sure he's still the face of Marvel Strike Force, or at some point was. You know, they used to use him and push him really hard in the beginning of the campaign when you do the tutorial. You know, he's there. He's one of the first characters that you unlock. And yes, he did actually get a rework, and I believe that was related to his web slinger here. It did actually, a special here, it got defense down to each target for 2 turns. So it used to be 1 turn. And this was actually really, really good. But he's just... I forget how long ago this was as well, if anyone remembers the timeline on this. Either way, you know, it just isn't cutting it now. He does do stuff, damage and gains evade. The chain isn't even guaranteed, which is really disappointing. His ultimate's not bad, but of course, why would you ever run OG Spider-Man when you have Symbiote Spider-Man? So I don't know if he necessarily needs to be brought in line with Symbiote Spider-Man, but they definitely need to do more. His passive also is very plain. Gain 20% dodge chance. That's it. And if you really want this Spider-Man Miles synergy, then you're going to need to get the T4. So this needs to get reworked as well. This kind of leads me to believe that they're going to be working on some sort of Web Warriors trait. And I know that this has been rumored by a couple of the usual rumor mill people, but I think that this probably will be likely eventually. The reason why I say that is because I think that him and Miles will probably get a rework together alongside some newer characters. Spider-Gwen. There's also Silk. I don't know if you guys are aware of Silk. She's, I believe, a newer spider hero type character. And there's also Spider-Woman. Jessica Drew could also be added onto that. So there's a handful of characters that could be added in here alongside them to make a Web Warriors Spider-Verse team. And I think that's very likely because while Miles has the Young Avengers trait, I really don't think he deserves to be on there. So there's a lot of possibilities that they could do with OG Spider-Man. There's a bunch of different directions that they could go. They could do, you know, the Into the Spider-Verse, you know, characters. You know, there's a bunch of them there. They could do the Web Warriors with a lot of the existing ones from the Marvel 616 universe. I think that they could do there's a couple directions they could go. They should do something. I don't even care what. You know, it's something new. They do like to take a lot of sort of 2 or 3 older characters, rework it in with 2 or 3 newer characters, and then boom, you have a new team. So Infinity Watch is a good example of this, Shadowlands, Skilletary, etc. You know, this is very common, so I see this being a thing going forward. So that is number 4. And the final character that I want to talk about today in this video is Nobu. Now, this is probably of no surprise, guys. He has not been touched. I'm pretty sure 0. So as far as reworks gone, I think he needs it the most, alongside someone like Yondu. I'm pretty sure those two are the ones. Oh, and Kingpin, of course. So Spider-Man and Iron Man were sort of adjusted very slightly, you know, with the team traits, but these characters haven't been touched at all. And so Nobu and Hand are absolute trash, and it's really disappointing because they are used for a flash event, the catalyst, what's it called, the Relic Hunt catalyst event that happens every month, but it's very difficult to clear without actually gearing them quite high. Not to mention Nobu is also usable in the Phoenix legendary event, and yet that doesn't really improve his viability or how good he is because he's still really bad. So the reason why he's so bad is just his abilities just don't stack up anymore, you know? So his ultimate, what the hell is this, guys? Okay, so for an ultimate move, he gives counter to the allies. That's it? Counter. Just counter. On a cooldown of 5. Give this on a cooldown of 2 and maybe we can talk. But, you know, even just counter as an ultimate move? Why would I T4 this? Gain 2 counter on self? That seems like a load of trash. Wow, thanks. Thanks, Boundless. I know this is Foxnest back in the time, so it wasn't even Scopely or anyone. But this literally was one of the worst. This is one of the worst moves ever to come to the game. Like, and there's a lot of bad moves, but this was really terrible. This was terrible. And his passive, I'll admit, his passive is super annoying when you're fighting Nobu and other characters in raids in Dark Dimension because it triggers the revive mechanic, and we all know that AIs revive more frequently than they should, so this is kind of annoying there. But when it comes to us using him, it's trash. It doesn't work when we want it to, and realistically, that's just not enough. Is he supposed to be the leader of the Hand, or are we going to get another Hand character later on the line that's more leader than he is? Because this should have leader-esque traits. This should be like, you know, plus 20-30% damage, plus health, you know, that a lot of the current passives do have for teams. I don't know too much about the wider lore of the Hand. You know, please, again, let me know in the comments down below if you guys know more appropriate characters to come to Hand. But I think, again, what they might do is they might do something similar to what they did with AIM when they brought out Graviton. So I kind of see another character or two coming out down the line that has the Hand tag, and you might be able to mix and match some minions, something like that. Because we do have, obviously, Nobu and Elektra. Maybe we might get one new character, and then you can choose 2 minions after the minions get reworked, and then go at it like that. I don't know. But yeah, the kit is garbage. I will say, though, as far as the Hand summon goes, they are better than both the Kingpin summons and the Yondu summons, in my opinion. A Hand Blade Master actually can hit fairly decently hard on his special, so if the Blade Master actually got the Hand minions got a rework, then I could see this being decent and him being decent overall. Hand Archer, actually, his special, we all know the Hand Archer with the clearing of positive effects, that's actually pretty decent. So like I said, if these minions got reworked, if Nobu got reworked, it might actually be decent. But, you know, in terms of, this is all it does, right? All it does is summon, I'm pretty sure. It doesn't do anything else. At least Nobu's, at least Yondu's summon gives offense up to Ravagers. This needs to do more. We can't just summon. It needs to do more than just summon. It needs to do something else. So that needs to be adjusted. The basic does damage and doesn't even guarantee stealth. Yeah, this needs to be reworked as well. I don't know what. I'm not here to tell them how to rework their characters, but if you guys have any suggestions, feel free to leave that in the comments down below as well. But yeah, Nobu needs some serious love, and I will say, out of all the characters on this list, he is the one that I have with the least amount of red stars. He is one of 4 characters on my roster that only has a 3. The other one I know off the top of my head is Star-Lord, who has a 3 red star. This is super disappointing because my average is like 4 to 5 on my roster, and he's the only one that I happen to have never pulled in an Elite 4 or higher, which I guess is good, but also disappointing if the rework does come sooner than later. So let me pull a 4 or a 5 on Nobu. Oh wait, don't do that, because then Moondragon's coming soon, and I know that I'm gonna get Nobu instead of her. Scratch what I just said. Don't give me Nobu on red stars. And one quick honorable mention before we end this video is to talk about Wolverine. Now, he has been adjusted very slightly when Uncanny X-Men came out, and again when Jubilee came out. There was some flavor text in Jubilee's passive that actually talked about Wolverine, but I do want to bring this up. There was rumors that Wolverine might be getting a Weapon X team coming at some point. I don't know what the validity of that rumor is, but there is a possibility of that coming down the line. So, Wolverine may have a rework sooner than some of these other characters, but yeah, I believe he gained this. They gained 5% speed per Uncanny X-Men, and this was kind of bringing him a little bit in line if you wanted to use him in that team, and that's okay, because his speed was kind of pretty crap. 95? Still not the best. You know, if you're running a full Uncanny team, that's a 20% extra speed, so that's, I don't know, what brings him up to like 115, maybe, something like that. So it's more acceptable. But overall, his kit's okay, but it's not good enough. It's not good enough in the current climate of the game. And for a character that kind of, you know, is very synonymous with Marvel, synonymous with mutants, I think that they need to do a little bit better on Wolverine. The sad thing is, of course, is that he is very easily obtainable by 7 stars, since he is the sort of the clear all objectives reward for a lot of people, so it's not going to make them a lot of money by reworking him unless they rework him into a new team, which I think is probably more likely. Again, like I talked about earlier with the other characters, that kind of having seen 2 or 3 reworked characters and 2 or 3 newer characters into a new team. This seems to be what they're doing moving forward, so I think that's very likely what's going to happen, is that, just like with Shadowland, with Skilletary, with Infinity Watch, you know, there's at least 2 old characters and then 2 or 3 new characters. I think that is probably what's going to happen. So that was all of them. This is the 6th honorable mention of Wolverine, and the 5 earlier. Just wanted to talk to you guys about the characters that I think who have been sitting around on the benches for far too long since the beginning of the game, more or less. And let me know what you think about my choices in the comments down below. Let me know if I missed anyone out. Let me know if there's someone I should have talked about in this video. Always interested to hear that as well. So until next time, guys, stay safe, and I'll see y'all later. Hoylon signing out.